understand the code, the principles, the truth, unfiltered and raw. I also like to call it God's blueprint, aka natural law.
Well, bonjour there. This is Derek Bartoluccelli. I'm so happy to have Cynthia Mitchell from Affirm Life Daily back in the house once again. And for those that are not familiar, for all my Freedom Under Natural Law community folks, where we're trying to ignite hearts and minds for this next upcoming conference coming up, Cynthia is quite a powerhouse. She has her great podcast and her website where she can offer some really great, valuable services. And she's quite the wordsmith in many different ways. And her podcast has featured the likes of Will Keller, Logan Hart, and myself, Chris Jansen, Corey Angelate, who's also going to be featured. So she just was with Jerry Capizzuto of Soundpath. So yeah, I love the fact of this cross-pollination, a little crosstalk as well, or sorry, Time Strider with Sarah Cross now. So yeah, how you doing, Cynthia? So glad to see you.
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, thanks.
Touched my heart.
Oh yeah. So how you doing? What are you up to these days? And kind of, if you want to give a brief nutshell type of thing for those that aren't quite familiar with your works and all that, please.
Absolutely. So I'm Cynthia Mitchell. I'm host of the Natural Law Podcast on Affirm Life Daily. You can visit affirmlifedaily.com for tons of information. You can see all previous podcasts. You can check out poetry. You can check out affirmations. You can have a wonderful resources page so you can get books, videos, documentaries, just trying to really educate people on natural law in all the different ways, because everyone, kind of gleans information and processes information differently. So I would like to put it out there, like in all the ways, affirmations, poetry, to podcasts, to books, all the things, because as we shift paradigms, we need, as many people as we can on board. And I think this paradigm shift cannot truly happen in a way that will be long-term or sustainable if people do not understand, overstand natural law. That is the basis for everything. So it's very important and dear to my heart. So I am out here doing this work and I love it. It's very fulfilling. I love it. And the community that I found, oh my gosh, the wonderful people like you that I have come into contact with and become friends with and built relationships with. It's beautiful.
But in real life, you're keeping it farm fresh and all that good stuff.
Oh, collectively sustainable, baby.
Yeah.
I have a huge garden. I do grow my own food, not everything, but what I don't grow myself, I try to get from local farmers. Like I'll go to the farmers market or I will drive to local farms in my area and try to get everything from, someone that's grown it locally or other members in this community, Collectively Sustainable, which you can visit them at collectivelysustainable.org. If you want to start growing your own food, this is a great launching pad. We are helping to build hyper local food systems, not just across Georgia, which is where I am, across the world. So that is the mission. That is the goal, so that we can be healthy and free.
Hell yeah. And that's, along the lines of what your podcast is about, obviously, delving into the esoteric and exoteric information and situation that we're all placed in, and trying to air out some of that frustration and whatever, but also trying to drive home, what are the solutions? How can we empower ourselves and so that? So I love, you always have, some proper morals to the story, if you will, and, goals you're trying to see about in your podcast. I love the format that you have, having like Soul Expression that's on. He puts out his own little mini presentations on your show sometimes, and that's just like cool to see you collaborating with a lot of cool cats.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. He's actually going to be on a podcast upcoming, a part 2 to the True Care podcast we did. So we're doing a part 2 to that. And this is all about true care, because true care is action. It's action based. What are you actually doing in the world that shows that you care about yourself and about humanity and about nature? And food is a big part of that. It's a big part of that.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about, gas stations, and there was like, you got to fuel up and this and that, and thinking about like, what do they have in gas stations? It's like kind of like the human food. Oh, got to fuel up on, your caffeinated drinks and the Red Bulls and your whatever the bullshit, and like, this watered down sock juice coffee that they have sometimes. Well, sometimes they got some decent stuff. I'm not going to be some French coffee elitist over here, but so,
I'm sure it's a different level of coffee there.
yeah, but it's like, what are people really consuming to really fuel themselves? Like, what about juicing and things like that, and like proper organic food, and not just be a simple foodie of just for the looks and like taste, but actually the nutrition, and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The nutrition levels in food that you grow yourself and food that you get from a store that probably shipped it from across the world is usually dramatically different. Dramatically different. And you also, the freshness, because the freshness is going to be dramatically different. And the nutrients decline as fresh food ages. So all these things matter. And then also, you just don't know what they're also doing to your food. I mean, we've all heard now that they're trying to put vaccines in a lot of the fresh produce, and think you can't control that if you don't know where it came from. And if you're waiting on them to tell you, to disclose, good luck with that. Good luck with that. So building these communities where, we're growing food not just individually but together. So that way, Derek, you don't have to grow everything. I can grow some of the stuff. Then, Susan can grow some of the stuff, and then George can grow some of the stuff. And then by the time, we have our little community, we have everything that we need, and we just share it amongst each other. So that's really the goal of this, is to build communities around self-sufficiency, so that we're not, right now, yeah, we have food access, but we are not food sovereign. Because if they shut that access down, then what? And you have no idea how to grow food. You don't have any seeds. You don't have any proper soil. What do you do? Do you have a plan for that when that happens? Not if that happens, when that happens.
Damn. Yeah. Right. And it's funny how people think this is some kind of new concept, as if like bartering and sharing food, and like neighbors, being more, specialized in certain crops or whatever, and yada yada, and then like you get this little round robin of sharing, whatever, right? Exchanging. And my friend has this going on where I have some of my affairs, or clothes and whatever. It's my mini storage unit. In this place in France, and he lives in this little hamlet where they have their lot of land. It used to be, an apple orchard, and they would like make cider in this one second, and all this other stuff, and like they would have that, and they would share stuff with neighbors, and like they'd have a good old merry-go-round of it's not going to be the end of all means. Like, no one's growing rice out there, or all these other staple foods, but still, it's like something that can really reconnect people to the land and each other as well, and build more trust and solidarity and resilience, or reliance, dependent, not like codependent, in the negative sense, but some kind of dependence where we're not depending on the shitstones.
Yeah, interdependent on each other.
Yeah. And that's great. Y'all are, encouraging that more and more, whether it just be on your individual level in efforts going from farm to farmers markets, or, with, the farm fresh and all that stuff. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And I'm glad you brought up community, because that's what it's all about. When you do things like this, you're building community, like real bonds, real relationships, real care amongst each other. And that's going to be vital as we move forward into building a new paradigm, like having real, true community that we can rely on, that we can trust, that everyone understands natural law, so we respect each other's freedom and privacy and right to make your own decisions. So it's a beautiful thing. It's really just given me so much hope, even just being a part of Collectively Sustainable and learning so much more about gardening and expanding my own garden. And, like I said, doing barters, and, I got this, whatever I grew. And then, you're going to give me some of your sea moss gel that you made, or just, we barter products that we make. We barter food that we grow. There's also a related platform, farmfresh247.com, which anyone can go on and, you can sell, barter, or give away food that you grow, or maybe you got some extra chickens at your house, or you just whatever that maybe you have some trees that you sprouted that you some fruit trees that you want to sell, maybe you bake fresh bread. So, all the things is like we're sharing as a community, and it's just really beautiful to be a part of. It's beautiful to see it grow and flourish, and more people are joining every day, and it's yeah, it just fills my heart. It really fills my heart. And like I said, gives me so much hope, because there's so much negative stuff coming at us constantly. And you can start to feel discouraged, to say the least. So this is very encouraging when you see it being done real time, because people are like, oh, that's not really feasible. You can't really do that. People can be so negative, and their imaginations are so shut down. They're just thinking it's the system's way, or it can't happen. If the government didn't say it could happen, how could it possibly happen? If they didn't say on the news that that's possible, how could that possibly be? That's the way that a lot of people think. If it's not co-signed by some authority, they think it can't be real. And I'm here to show people it's not only can be real, it is real. We're already doing it.
Yeah. What does this, victimized, poverty mentality, or like disempowered, like we, the people, supposed to be bigger and better than the government, and the government is made up of people and all this stuff. We never needed the government's fucking permission to do a goddamn motherfucking thing. You know what I mean? So all that aside, like, no holds barred, keep growing, overgrow the government, overthrow, and whatever the hell, yo. And
exactly.
Yeah, I love how people can see that empowerment in just going to a farmer's market, even once a month type of thing, and getting that reminder of, oh, there are people on ground earth level doing proper shit. Their stuff doesn't come from a laboratory or a factory or whatever the fuck. These people are, green thumbing it till, to the bone type of shit,
Yeah.
And I love how, it seems like, what you got going on over there, it is really along the lines of this conference title of Igniting Hearts and Minds towards, more of that good old divine, and being naturally inclined to be aligned to natural law and shit like that. And I wanted to ask you, since you mentioned it, and it was also in context, like in regards to like morality and stuff, but what's your kind of like elevator pitch of what natural law is, in a sense?
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a good question. So for me, when I try to give like the short version, which can be hard sometimes, but the short version really is very simplistic in and of itself. You're basically respecting the rights and freedom of others. So you're able to take care of yourself and live and function, with a community of other people or within humanity without stealing from another or infringing on their rights. And when we talk about stealing, we're talking about stealing, harming people, stealing their, physical well-being, killing people, stealing their life, stealing their property, stealing sexual contact. No theft of any kind. So you're honoring someone's right to live without being harmed. The only time that harm would come into play is if self-defense has to come into play, because you always have the right to defend yourself. I feel like you have a moral obligation, honestly, to defend yourself, or innocent. So like children or elderly people that can't defend themselves, we have a moral obligation to defend them as well. So that's kind of, for me, natural law in a nutshell. And that in combination with just respecting and understanding our divine nature, that we are not just human beings, we are divine. We're spiritual beings in human form, having this experience. So we have to look at everything through that spiritual lens first, and understand again that we are eternal, because then you can look at all these problems from a macro level and have a totally different viewpoint of it, because well, if they end up killing me or harming me because I'm speaking out, or I'm, going against the system, or I'm doing what's just simply what is right, can lead sometimes to so much harm in this world, in this control system. You will have so much more courage because you get it. Like, this is just one lifetime of many. I'm eternal. There's nothing they can really do to me for real, because what can you do to an eternal spirit? Nothing. Nothing for real. You can do something to this avatar, this body, but me, my spirit, my essence, there's nothing that they can do to me. Nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Positive,
Elevator
powerful.
pitch. Yeah.
I like that response. That was beautiful. Thank you. I know you're going to be infusing some of that good old natty law in your presentation for the Freedom Under Natural Law conference. And yeah, about 15 minutes left. So it'd be a good time for you to possibly give a little sneak peek, maybe not too many spoilers, if you will, but whatever you feel like sharing.
Absolutely. I have my little outline in front of me. And like I said, I was working on it right before this. So it because it encompasses so much. So, but basically I want to define a lot of terms for people and then just give people a lot of insight into the difference, like I said, between food access and food sovereignty, and how food sovereignty directly relates to freedom. Because what's that famous quote? Who controls the food controls the people. Tell me what revolution you're going to have. Tell me what changes you're going to make. Even if you're into the system still, who you're voting for. Tell me any of those things you can do if you don't have any food. Zero. Zero. So it is directly related to everything that we're doing. Food sovereignty. We have to have food, and it needs to be nutritious food, because if it's not nutritious, then once our health goes, you can't worry about the revolution or changing things if you're barely surviving because your health has gone into such decline. So all these things are extremely related. So I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to get into the current state of farming and agriculture globally and domestically. I'm going to be talking about synthetic foods, lab grown foods, why those are being pushed, the impact they have on your health and your body. Also, how to begin growing food on your own if that's something that you're interested in doing. Food sovereignty, community building, and bringing it all home with that tie into natural law and tie into our freedom. Because like I said, there is no place to go if we don't have the basic needs like food met. If we can't meet those basic needs without government assistance, we're in real trouble. There's no separating ourselves from their control if we cannot feed ourselves. It's impossible.
Yeah, and like we think of things in terms of energy, right? And they want to control all these forms of energy.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's so stacked up against us. And so, yeah, how can we little by little, step by step, take that power back and all this stuff? And it could be just within our own backyard, or even in our home if you don't have that, if you're in an apartment, whatever. Yep. Even just sourcing your food from proper, local, sustainable, farmers, right?
Yes. All of those are solutions. If you have an apartment and you have a little back balcony or patio that gets some sun, you can grow food there. I grow like peppers and stuff in my house in little hydroponic gardens all year round. There's ways to grow food inside, outside, that's pretty cost effective, not that difficult to do. You don't need a ton of space, especially if it's just you or like a small family or just a couple. You can grow, quite a bit of food just in a very small backyard garden or front yard garden or whatever. But it starts with us. It starts with each person taking personal responsibility for the choices that they make when it comes to food, and who we're going to support and what kind of food we're going to support and what kind of research we're going to do, because, we're being sold that, all the synthetic stuff and lab stuff is so great. When you start looking into it, not so much. And I will be talking about that during the presentation.
Yeah, looking forward to that. And sorry, I lied. We only got like a minute left.
No worries.
So I guess, in a nutshell, what does it mean to you to kind of like really try to ignite that flame, that spark within one's soul when you like want to speak in public or, any kind of interaction with people and that kind of stuff? And not like it's got to be a crusade on a daily basis, right? Because, burn ourselves out or whatever, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, my definite passion, I've come to learn just recently is definitely connecting with people. I mean, I love doing the podcast online, but connecting with people in person is just another level for me. So doing the workshops, I started doing like workshops, that I feel like is definitely something that I want to do much more of. I'd like to do more public speaking too. So I'm looking for a place where I can, places or engagements where I can speak publicly about natural law, just to widen the audience, you know, to learn about natural law, because like I said, it's the foundational piece for what we're building when we're building the new. So, and of course, my poetry, my creative expression is probably my favorite way of expressing myself and my passion and just my love for life in general.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope you hit up some of them open mics if and when you can get a chance or whatever. But even if it's not your thing, having
No,
it
I love
displayed
open
somewhere in public would be great. And
Yeah.
you know, your profound poetry would make a positive impact for many people. So
Appreciate that. Appreciate it.
well, thank you so much for your presence. Happy solstice out there, Cynthia, and everyone else listening. Sorry, it's got to be so short, but c'est la vie. It's just an appetizer for the main course coming up in February.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, my friends.
Thank you.
Thank you.